Heat Nuggets game 3 recap. What a game that was. Miami started off with a 5-0 lead, and then Denver never looked back. At one point, Denver led by 21 points. But Miami stuck with the zone for most of the game. Jokic was doubled a lot tonight at times, which I really saw. They threw Bam at him, they threw Zeller at him, they threw Love at him. Sometimes Jimmy was guarding him, sometimes even Caleb Martin was, Lowry at times. But Miami really stuck with doubling Jokic as much as they could, and they weren't able to escape Jokic tonight. Jokic hit them in every single category there was. First player in NBA history in the NBA Finals to average 30, 20, and 10 in a game, which is unbelievable. I don't know how much more you can say it, how much more this guy can do for this team. And then tonight, his co star, Jamal Murray, who's been spectacular this entire postseason, was just as good as Jokic. It was just remarkable to see. Mike Malone after the game said it was arguably or probably their best performance, this duo he's seen between the two of them. It's been a long day for me. It's been a long travel day, but yeah, it was just a heck of a game from Jokic and Jamal Murray. But the thing that really got me was what Michael Malone just said, backtracking to the point I was just making, was in the 7 or 8 years he's been with them, this is probably the best game that he's seen between his two stars. I just want to talk about uh, Jokic's most 30 points, 20 rebound triple doubles in NBA playoff history with three, Wilt Chamberlain with one, and Kareem with one. And when you hear those types of names, you're just like, wow, you're just blown away. And Jokic is in the conversation of those centers. And if he wins a ring, he's definitely in the conversation with those centers. Some people make a case that he's not on that level yet, but he's on his way for sure. But one player I did want to talk about tonight from the Denver Nuggets was Christian Braun. The performance he had tonight. 15 points off the bench. Now, I think some people forget who this player is. He's not just any other rookie. Christian Braun was a 3-year player from Kansas who just won a national championship with Kansas last year when they beat UNC in the national championship of March Madness last year, drafted by the Nuggets, I think at 21st overall, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that. But the point is he's not just any other rookie. It was interesting to see that he did get his shot off the bench tonight and have 15 points and be the juggernaut off the bench, because their bench production was really nowhere to be found if other than Christian Braun. So it was just really interesting to see that third quarter run from him, kind of similar to what Duncan Robinson had in game 2 when he had his 10-point fourth quarter performance there. Christian Braun had his big third quarter performance, and even in the fourth quarter at times, he was punishing the Heat late down the stretch there. So, but like I said, this isn't a player who is just any other rookie. He has experience. He's athletic. He's versatile. He's willing to be coached because he was coached by one of the greatest college coaches of all time. So he understands, he knows the game. He's comfortable in Denver's system. Yeah, at times he looks streaky. Yeah, at times he looks wild, but I think he's going to be a solid player. And it's funny because I mentioned in game 2 what Christian Braun brought to the table. And even on the defensive side of the ball, there was a play late in the third or the fourth quarter, I don't remember, it's been a long day, but where he stole the ball and he had that breakaway transition dunk. But Christian Braun had a heck of a game tonight, and he saved Denver from their bench performance because their bench performance was nowhere to be found. But he is the first Western Conference rookie with a 15-point finals performance since Sam Cassell in 1994. Pretty elite company, if you ask me. Sam Cassell is now a assistant head coach who was just on the Sixers staff, and he ended up taking the Boston Celtics assistant role for the coaching situation over there. But there's one play that I did want to talk about, which was the flagrant foul at the end of the game with Jamal Murray when he got the ball and he inbounded it, and Caleb Martin and Haywood Highsmith double teamed him, and it was a good play to see. But the thing for me was I don't think it was a flagrant foul because Murray turned his elbow, but with this new NBA, that is going to get called. It's tough because they're going to call that 9 times out of 10. And that, I don't think that's a flagrant foul. If you're asking me, watching it, eye testing it, I watched it back a couple of times. That's not a flagrant foul. Yeah, Jamal Murray got the ball inbounded. They double teamed him, kind of put him in an uncomfortable position. Really great defense from the Heat. And that's something Michael Malone was stressing. He's been stressing these past 2 games, and even into tonight's game, he called the timeout late when a similar situation happened with the defensive breakdown. And Hats off to Miami there on that play, but I don't think it's a flagrant foul. That's the biggest thing for me. He kind of elbowed him, but Caleb Martin kind of turned back a little bit, like he fell back a little bit, but I just don't think it was a flagrant foul. So that's my take on that. But Gabe Vincent tonight was really nowhere to be found. I'm really not sure what happened to the Heat's offense. Now, at times, this is the Heat team that we've seen all year: inconsistent shooting, defensive breakdowns with their zone. This is a zone that they've been sticking with throughout this entire postseason. But let's not kick the tires on the Heat because they did battle late into the fourth quarter. They didn't roll over. They were down 21 at one point. And when the Jamal Murray flagrant foul, so quote unquote flagrant foul happened, they were down 9. Duncan Robinson hit a 3 there to cut it. But for me, this is the Heat team that we saw all year tonight. And there's one person I do want to bring up in the next topic here. That's Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero has to be inserted into this lineup some way or somehow. I know he was supposed to return for tonight's game, game 3. Even in game 2, they were saying he potentially could play. I don't know if Spoelstra is using him as a DNP. I'm not in the film room. I'm not on the coaching staff. But I think that the Miami Heat need to insert Tyler Hero somehow into their lineup. I'm not saying you have to start him. I'm saying that he needs to come off the bench somehow, some way, because you can't afford to have low production against a Nuggets team like this, especially when you're not shooting the ball well. You're 11 of 35 from 3. Denver didn't shoot the ball well from 3 either. They were what, 5 of, I have the right here. Denver was 5 of 18 from 3. So both teams didn't shoot the 3 ball very well tonight. But the point is Tyler Hero has to come into this lineup somehow or some way, because Max Strus and Duncan Robinson, if they're not producing, Tyler Hero has to be that guy that can come in off the bench and be that shot creator. But I'm not saying he has to command the second string offense or the second unit offense, because you got Kyle Lowry for that, but somebody that can come off the bench and give you some points. I'm not saying he's going to come off the bench and give you 20 points like he has this entire season, because he's coming off the hand injury. He hasn't played since game 1. He might have to get a little bit of time to get acclimated, and Denver will throw a bunch of stuff at him. They'll get switches onto him. They'll hit him with some defense there, because he's not a very good defender, so they'll put him in a lot of switches, maybe a lot of pick and rolls. But it doesn't matter. You got to insert Tyler Hero into the lineup somehow or some way. So let's talk about the statistical breakdown. Denver was 5 of 18 from 3. Heat were 11 of 35 from 3, like I just mentioned. The free throw disparity, because I know some people were going crazy about that in game 1, and I talked about it in the game 2 recap about the free throw disparity. Miami was 15 and 19 from the free throw line tonight. Denver was 22 of 27. The free throws there really isn't much of a drop off. I mean, 7, I guess, is it's points is points, but both teams, hit their free throws. And then to the rebounds part, this is what was huge. The Heat assistant coach Chris Quinn was stressing this in the third quarter when he spoke with Lisa Salters. Actually, coming out of halftime. We're getting killed in the paint. We got to do a much better job. The Nuggets had 58 rebounds throughout the entire game to Miami's 33 rebounds. Now, we know Miami is a much smaller team. We understand that. Denver's got the size: Aaron Gordon, Jokic, Michael Porter. He had 7 rebounds. He didn't show up anything else on the stat sheet, but that was the killer there from Miami, I think, tonight, which is the rebounds. And the total rebounds was just a major 25 differential there. That's huge. Defensive rebounds for Denver was 45, and then Miami had 33. The points in the paint is another thing I did want to talk about. Denver had 60 points in the paint to Miami's 34, and that goes back to the size advantage, the rebound differential, the athleticism advantage, because, other than Bam for Miami, he grabbed 17 boards, which is spectacular, but he's the only guy really that's grabbing boards for them. Kevin Love maybe grab a few at times. Zeller's a shell of himself. I don't even really understand why he plays. I get it. You have him out there to throw bodies at Jokic, but he's really just almost non-existent out there. But let's talk about Jamal Murray tonight. I mentioned earlier in the recap about his playoff performance, how he's been performing, and how he could potentially, I'm going to go on record, he could potentially still win Finals MVP. It looks like it's Jokic's if Denver does win this, which it looks like they will. But Jamal Murray tonight, 34 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. He joined Steph Curry and Jerry West as the only guards with a 30-point triple-double in a finals game. Now, when you hear names like that, Steph Curry's still playing, legend. Jerry West, legend. It's pretty elite company right there. And it's cool to see, because Another spectacular performance from Jamal Murray. He had 20 points at halftime, 14 in the second half. So really no drop off there, because in game two, he was pretty good in the first half, and in the second half, he was really nowhere to be found. So there was really no stopping Jamal Murray tonight. That 1-2 punch from Jokic and Jamal Murray was unbelievable. I mean, Miami would try to switch it at times, get them in uncomfortable situations. It just didn't work. Jamal Murray and Jokic were just on one tonight. But this was kind of funny. After the game, Nikola Jokic was interviewed after the game, and you're the first person in NBA history to have a 30, 20, and 10 game in the NBA Finals. What does that mean to you? Nikola, I mean, to be honest, not much. I'm just glad we won the game. That's the kind of player that Jokic is. He doesn't care about the stats. He doesn't care about the glamour. He doesn't care about the glitz. The guy goes out there with his wedding ring on his shoelace. He doesn't care about any of that. And that's what makes it so fun for true basketball fans that love the NBA, love a guy like this. They love the story from Jokic. I mean, hell, the guy got drafted on a Taco Bell commercial, 41st pick in the 2014 draft. What more can you ask for? He's just a chubby kid from Serbia who just likes to go out there and play basketball. It's fun. He's fun to watch. He is. He's technical. His technicality, his style of play. When you're watching him at times, you don't think he's going to hit the shot. But if you're a basketball fan, you understand his style of play. It just gives me that Larry Bird vibe. And it also kind of gives me like just watching Steph Curry. And these two players aren't really comparable. But the comparison I will make is how they make these crazy shots. I mean, going back in the postseason from Jokic over the Lakers and the AD shot, looking down at his feet and then hitting the crazy shot there. He had one on Bam tonight. He had another crazy three. If I remind you, before this game, Jokic is 47% from three this postseason. I mean, that's really it for me. That's from Jokic. But Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic also were recording a triple double in a finals game. One other teammate did this, Steph and Draymond. That's the list. They were the first teammates ever with 30-point triple doubles each in NBA history in a game. I mean, what more can you say? It's just remarkable. Imagine if you could give both of them the MVP. I know it doesn't work like that, but imagine if you could, the finals that they're both having. So Michael Malone was still upset with the Nuggets defense at times. Just they were better closing out on shots. Jamal Murray would still fall for the pump fake a lot, but Miami's really good at making guys miss, getting them in uncomfortable positions. Jamal Murray's not the greatest defender, but Michael Malone was still mad at Denver at times with their defense. That was just the one thing that I saw, because he would call a timeout and he would stress upon defense. He would point to one guy and he would point to the next guy, and it's something that they're still going to stress upon, because Miami's not falling down. Miami's not rolling over in this series. 2-1. They got a home game on Friday. They're not going to roll over. I thought Jimmy Butler's performance was solid. I think he could have played better. I know he had 28 points. I know stat sheet and this and 28 points, this and that, but I think his aggressiveness to come out of the game was nice to see. But I think he could be a little more aggressive at times. And I think, yes, he's still nursing that ankle injury, but Miami got decent production from their bench, 28 points from their bench. Like I said, Jimmy had 28, Bam had 22 and 17. If it wasn't for Christian Brown for the Nuggets, who I mentioned earlier, their Nuggets bench had 9 points. To recap this off here, Heat made a late push in the fourth. It was just a little too late. And then one more stat I'll leave you here with. Teams that win game 3 of the NBA Finals, when it's 1-1 in a series, they go on to win the series 80% of the time, 32-8. I'll leave you with that. That's it for game 3 recap. Thanks as always. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, The Inquisitive Mamba Podcast. Make sure to follow us on Spotify, The Inquisitive Mamba Podcast, Apple Podcast as well, TikTok at The IQM Pod, Instagram at The IQM Pod. Thank you guys so much for the love on that last clip that I posted about the quote-unquote not goaltending, if it was or not goaltending, with Bam and Jamal Murray from Game 2. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I will see you for Game 4.